Imagine stepping into the forest just after it rains. The air feels cool against your skin. The scent of damp earth rises with each step. Pine needles soften the sound of your feet touching the ground. And everything feels quietly alive. You look around, you see trees standing tall, separate from each other, rooted in its own place. And yet, beneath your feet, something else is happening. An entire living network moving silently through the soil. Thread-like pathways weaving, branching, connecting, carrying information, responding, adapting, and supporting life in ways we rarely see. So today we are exploring the question, what is mycelium? And this question becomes especially meaningful when you find yourself curious about microdosing, psilocybin, or other plant medicines, because the mushroom is the only visible expression of something much larger happening beneath the Earth's surface. So recently someone asked me this exact question, and what I found myself wanting to share is that mycelium is both incredibly simple and quite extraordinary. Because what we are beginning to understand is that connection exists in ways that go far beyond the spoken language. Connection exists as relationship, as subtle communication between living systems, between earth, plants, animals, and yes, even us. It's all this interconnected system where information moves quietly. It's adjusting and recalibrating, and it's maintaining this sacred balance. So imagine yourself standing in the forest one more time, and you gently brush aside the top layer of the soil. And here's what you would find. This delicate white woven web that stretches in so many directions. It's like fine threads of silk. This is the mycelium. Mycelium is this organism living beneath the Earth's surface. And the mushroom, often associated with psilocybin and microdosing, is simply the stem and the cap emerging from this vast underground network that connects roots of trees, plants, and entire ecosystems. So through this network, these signals move. Energy is transformed throughout the mycelium, and what appears separate above ground is deeply connected below the earth. And here is what the word mycelium gets to remind us, is that it's this relationship is always happening, even when we cannot see it. It's like this intelligent exchange, maybe even a quiet conversation, an unseen web of connections supporting life from beneath the forest floor. So this is the part of the question, what is mycelium, becomes so relevant. When you begin exploring psilocybin, microdosing, and other plant medicines, your medicine comes from this vast network. It's not just the mushroom we see above the ground, but it's this intelligence of this living ecosystem it grows from. So when you begin exploring microdosing, psilocybin, and other plant medicines, you are not simply taking a substance. You are literally entering into relationship with something that has emerged from deeply connected system below the ground, which invites in a different kind of curiosity now. It's a different kind of respect, because the question begins to shift from, what can this do for me, to something far more powerful. What it is inviting me to notice is, what do I see? What do I feel within me? So the medicine begins to influence how you relate to yourself, patterns, and to your inner world. Now, this is where this begins to feel just a little bit more personal, because just like the forest, your inner world is also woven together in relationship. So very much like the mycelium, a single thought can shift how your body physically feels. A sensation in your body can influence the choices that you make. A moment of tension within your body can change how open or how guarded you stay. So everything is connected. So just like the mycelium does not operate on this single strand, neither do you. You are this incredible living network, constantly sensing, responding, and finding balance within your environment. So when you begin exploring microdosing psilocybin and other plant medicines, you may begin to experience moments where something within you responds differently than it once did. A conversation that maybe potentially once felt activating begins to feel more spacious. A thought that once spiraled begins to loosen its grip. A place where tension was once lived within the body, it begins to soften. And you may notice an awareness emerging, an ability to observe your internal patterns instead of immediately becoming them. It's a sense that something within you is reorganizing because your internal network is beginning to communicate differently. So this is where the question becomes even more powerful. What is this inviting me to notice? What is this inviting me to see? And what is this inviting me to feel? And maybe the answers to these questions may have been unable to be accessed before. So just like mycelium strengthens the conditions of the forest floor, what I have witnessed again and again in my clients is that microdosing psilocybin and other plant medicines, they support these conditions where change can actually begin. They allow you to soften the places that have felt rigid for a very long time. I've seen people notice, sometimes with surprise, that a moment which would have pulled them into this state of reactivity now holds just enough space for them to choose differently. I've seen people pause before they react. I've seen women speak where there was once silence. I've seen men feel without immediately needing to push the feeling away. And what becomes visible is not this dramatic transformation overnight, but it's this quiet reorganization that is happening within their internal ecosystem. So again, very much like mycelium, we're restoring communication between parts that may not have been in conversation within us before. Because just like the forest, you are not made of separate operating pieces alone. Your thoughts influence your body and your emotions influence the way you meet the world. So everything is in this relationship. And when communication begins to flow from within differently, that network begins to create this new possibility and that emerges. And this is what makes mycelium such a meaningful place to begin when we explore microdosing psilocybin and other plant medicines, because the question is no longer, what is mycelium? The question becomes, what begins to change when this connection within me is restored? What becomes possible when different parts of you begin communicating in new ways? So maybe the question is no longer only, what is mycelium? Maybe the question becomes, what begins to change when connection within you is strengthened? Because coming back to the forest floor again, this growth doesn't happen in isolation. It happens through communication, through relationship, through connection, and sometimes even in small shifts within the network, your internal network. And it can change how your entire system responds. So maybe understanding mycelium is also an invitation to remember that sometimes the journey doesn't begin where we expected it, but exactly where we needed it.